Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today we're dropping into the medicine of women's circles, remembered rituals, and radical nourishment with my beautiful friend, Maya Ittah. I first met Maya in a women's circle, like many of the luminous people who find their way onto this show. The very next day, I went to one of her Yoni steaming gatherings by the river, and what struck me most wasn't just the practice, it was the communion. We sat, we sang, we told stories. It felt like stepping into a living womb, an energetic circle where the feminine is honored, witnessed, and restored. Maya is a board-certified massage therapist and clinical nutritionist whose path began at the Finger Lakes School of Massage and continued through a master's in applied clinical nutrition. She's lived all around the world, and that multicultural lens infuses everything she offers, from bodywork and Thai massage to holistic nutrition, Yoni steam ceremonies, wild crafting, and now her newest devotion, breast massage and breast care. In this conversation, we explore reclaiming our breasts and wombs from objectification and medicalization and back into love and daily care. Healing the maternal lineage and the mother wound through presence and ritual. Meditation as resonance, how your body tells you when something is aligned. Food as information, seasonal nourishment, and winter as a time to tend the inner hearth. And why circles function like cauldrons for collective alchemy. If you're in the Roanoke area and curious to begin, Maya is hosting Open Heart Commons on December 13th, a self-breast massage and storytelling circle co-created with Lee Hunsaker. All the details are in the show notes. And a gentle reminder, the practices we discuss are educational and ceremonial. Always listen to your body and consult your trusted provider if you have specific medical concerns. And if you're in a season of change and want support weaving intuition into practical next steps, my transition doula sessions are linked below. All right, take a deep breath, soften your heart space, and let's step into the circle. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and I'm here with my beautiful friend Maya. Maya, I met at a women's circle, like many of my podcast guests. And I think when I attended, you had mentioned your Yoni steaming coming up the next day. And I was like, I need to go to that. And I did. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience, something that I had no idea even really existed. The thing that was so powerful about it was just sitting in communion with other women in a way that we don't do anymore. We sat and we sang and we told stories. And so I was just so moved by that. And I feel like these are the spaces that you're creating, not just with the Yoni steaming, but with crafting. And now you're working on breast massage, which is all kind of the same theme of honoring women, bodies, honoring our lineage. So tell us a little bit how you got started on this path.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to say, I love how I told you the day before, and then the day after you showed up. You're like, yes, I want to come.
That's how I live my life.
That was great. How I got started? Well, it's been quite a journey. It's been really my entire adulthood, I would say, since I was 19, beginning with training in massage therapy. I actually worked at this doctor's office. He was an MD doctor, but practiced very holistically. And I was working with him at the office, and he's the one who suggested, hey, why don't you look into massage? And I had never considered that. But going to massage school up in Ithaca, New York, it was a very holistic program. And just starting opening me up to the world of holistic healing in general, and just exposing me to a lot of different modalities, from energy healing, polarity therapy, not just massage, also healthy foods. This was when I first heard about kombucha and I started making my own kombucha. I was like,
Uh-huh.
wow, that's a thing. So that's where I would say it started for myself personally. Now, I was raised by a mother who also was emphasizing on healthy eating and taking me to the homeopath, which was more popular, I want to say, in France, where I primarily grew up, than it is here. It was more common for people to take their children to the homeopath. So, um, yeah, and then I just kind of went from there and just really started delving a little bit deeper into it year after year and acquiring more knowledge and skills and experiences along the way.
I feel like kombucha might be an entryway drug for a lot of us
I
into
think so.
holistic healing. Because I just was called to it. And this was like way before GTs even existed. And I was like, I can do this myself. This is so fun. And people would come over and I'd be like, come look at my SCOBY. And they'd look at me really weird. But you're so proud of it. You're like, I can do this. And I
Yeah.
think that's so much of what we're leaning into more and more. What so many of us are encouraging other people to lean into is we can take control over our
Mhm.
health.
Mhm.
And so after massage school, then what was the next evolution of your journey after that?
So after massage school, I was very much interested in continuing in the health field in general. So I continued taking college classes. My undergrad is in biological sciences, and I
Oh,
was like, okay, I'm just going to have a foundation of that and see where that takes me. And then along the way, I took a nutrition class just as a more elective class, and I just loved it. At that time, I was seeing clients regularly, and they kept coming to me with different, I guess, concerns or just issues. And they were like, do you think massage can help? I'm like, I mean, massage can help with these things, but this is a little bit deeper. And I don't feel I have the tools to help support you in that way. And when I took this nutrition class, I was like, wow, this answers a lot of questions more at the core and at the root of what's of these individuals, my clients, were dealing with. So then I actually applied for my master's program in applied clinical nutrition. And so that was the next main, I guess, program of study, you could say, that I delved in.
you said you grew up in France and you have a multicultural background. Talk a little bit more about how that maybe influenced your choices going into adulthood.
House. Um, so yes, I grew up primarily, you could say, in France, but my mother was a globe trotter, is what she
No.
called herself. So she traveled a lot before I was born, continued to travel a lot, and I was raised by a single mom. She just took me everywhere with her. We lived in Western Africa. We even lived a couple years in Israel when I was really young, and just in between, just traveled a little bit everywhere. Definitely a multicultural influence. And what I got from that and what I observed, I think even at a young age, is seeing that there is no one way of being human, of living this life, of experiencing ways and relationships and community. Everybody does it differently. Everybody relates to food, the land, connection in a different way. And I think having that kind of upbringing has just led me and given me that indirect freedom to find that permission to discover what that looks like in my life,
Mm.
and also to be able to honor that and uplift that and I guess recognize that and celebrate that in other individuals as well. So when working with groups and when working with individuals, I just see so much beauty in the diversity, like, and that there isn't just a one size fits all kind of way. It's like, well, I like to relate to things in this way. I was like, that's great. And I like to be this way and connect in this way. That's fantastic. And it's really about reconnecting to our own personal roots, no matter where they come from or what they look like, and really embracing that wide spectrum of connection and community and healing.
It's like we all have little pieces to a bigger puzzle, and
Mhm.
that we so often think that there's something wrong with us because we're different. And I think working with people myself, so much of what I do is really just give people permission to
Connection.
be themselves, to listen to their intuition. Thinking more about your mom being a globetrotter, you said, and I met her very briefly
Yeah.
at your house. She she's a force. I can imagine just from the little bit that you said that she's somebody who really radically follows her intuition. Is that true?
I would say yes. At this point in her life, definitely so. And that she's had her own journey. She was born and raised in Morocco, so she has that, culture and cultural background. But again, through her travel, really developed herself as her own person. Traveling as a solo woman, you really quickly learn to rely on your intuition,
Mhm.
that, okay, this situation or this place, it's like I really need to trust myself. So I would say that it probably began in that way and just evolved to she's a very spiritual person, very much into connecting to higher powers and her divinity and all of that. So, yes, she's a force.
I could sense that just from meeting her.
Yeah.
Have you co-created anything with her?
Well, so back in 2017, I opened Garden Song Eco Cafe, and I had that open for 5 years over on Fifth Street. And she was I guess, the primary face and manager in that kitchen. So we worked very closely. I was more of the behind the scene person, but we worked very closely together. So there were a couple times that we were interviewed together and articles were written about us as mother-daughter doing this food business together.
Wow.
That was the thing. It came with beautiful benefits and also challenges of working with your mother or your daughter.
So talk a little bit more about that. I feel like close relationships, especially with our mothers, being women, that they're such a mirror, and having a daughter myself too. It is so much more challenging to raise my daughter than it is to raise my son, because every little thing that I see in her that I feel like needs to be developed, I'm like, oh, wait, that's me. And so I need to work on that within myself before I can do anything to help her. And I also have, thinking about my relationship with my mother, they're always so complicated, but I think that they're supposed to be that way. Or maybe it's just that we were not in communion with our lineage in the way that we should be. And these modalities that you're using too with the Yoni steaming, I think is getting back to something that we've really lost,
Mhm.
this connection. So talk a
Mhm.
little bit about how you've, gotten into this space of thinking about lineage and where we came from and where we are and where we're going, and if that relates at all to your relationship with your own mother.
Yeah, my mother and I have actually had conversations about that, about ancestral traumas and the mother wound and things that she carries herself, which she's actually brought forth to me and say, Maya, I really need to heal this so I don't continue to pass this on to you. And I have a daughter myself, right? And something we carry. So we've had very much of an open discussion about, okay, let's end this cycle here. Let's have this end with us. Let's heal some of these patterns and these stories with the work that we can do here right now, presently, in our bodies, in our minds, spiritually. So it can be really powerful work. And the yoni steaming, the breast massage, the connection with the land, the remembering of our deeper ancestral roots really heal that maternal wound in a way that when women show up and choose presence over shame and um, I guess suppression, is when we really start to heal the feminine that has often been oppressed or has lived without or been distorted in a way that does not honor the truth of who we are and the power of womanhood. And I feel like in so many ways in our cultures, women have almost been forced to move into more of their masculine nature in order to fit in a society that is so highly dominated by the masculine. And there is a wounding in that as well, a collective wounding in that. And so finding our way back and remembering the power of divine feminine is truly beautiful and starts healing, and we find our power again. And just through finding our power and our presence in our womanhood, that is what heals the ancestral traumas and the pattern of the stories of lack and of shame. And because we start honoring this body, we start honoring what we offer, the abundance that flows through us as women. So little by little, we start rewriting those stories and bringing healing, generational healing, moves back and forward to our children and our children's children. So I see it as such important work that is amplified when we come together collectively too. There is so much work that we can do on our own, but when we come together as women, like you said at the beginning, and share our stories together, we become mirrors one for each other. And coming together in that way, we also amplify and uplift each other's intentions, each other's prayers in such a powerful way. It almost creates this energetic like vortex that begins to flow where our voices and our stories begin to blend together and create this, that's how I visualize it, this field that is uplifted through our work, through our heart opening together, remembering together. And that's really the work that I've been steeping myself more into recently, and I'm so passionate about continuing to develop.
I definitely felt that when we were sitting in a circle in the Yoni steam. It did feel like some kind of energetic vortex. What does the circle mean to you?
And even, in our women's circle where we met, I mean, the circle is very much of a representation of the feminine. There is no one below, there's no one above, there is no one behind. We're all equals. We come together in just the shape itself creates this resonance, right? This container that we hold, and everything that happens within that circle is sacred. So it's almost like holding this bowl, this cauldron, this container where the work is being done. So when we think about it in terms of alchemy, right, this is where the work happens, and we cultivate this together in that circle. So it's a beautiful way to create sacred space for me to be in that. Even that physical configuration energetically, I feel like really contains the work that we're doing together.
It's almost like the womb too, creating this container, which is like the womb and the femininity. It's so beautiful. And just thinking back to the beautiful boxes that you've made for the Yoni steaming, and the bowls that go underneath, and the herbs that you put in, and the entire experience just felt like a meditation. What role does meditation play in your everyday life?
So meditation, well, it's integral to everyday life. And meditation, I would like to say, comes in so many forms. I think we often think of meditation as we have to sit in a certain position, we have to close our eyes, our fingers have to be held in a certain way. And then people are like, well, I don't know which finger, like what if I'm not comfortable like that? Can I not meditate? Right. So meditation, the way that I view it, is coming back to that center, that axis, that point of stillness, which isn't an absence of movement, but it's really reconnecting with the resonance of what is truly who we are and our core and our essence, and rooting that down to the earth and finding that point of remembrance and resonance. And so I find that can be a meditative state that we can find ourselves in going through everyday life, going through the store. And of course, there are deeper states of meditation where our minds calm completely, right? And we activate some slower brain waves, right? But even on a day-to-day, when I'm working with clients doing massage, I find myself in some deeper meditation states, even doing that. But when it comes to the Yoni steam that you brought up, the way that I've created these spaces, which I learned about Yoni steaming several years back and had experienced a couple that were done slightly differently. There was even, I don't know if you know about it, there was a Yoni steam spot or store at Valley View Mall.
Really?
Yes,
Oh
for
my
some time.
gosh. Wow.
It's called the Sweet Spot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I am
And
constantly surprised by the things that exist in this area because it is so conservative.
so that was, and unfortunately, I believe they closed, but they were operating for a while. And again, that was a very different environment. I mean, as you can imagine, you're in a mall and you walk in and they had these little stools and you sat and you steamed, right? So very different experience than what we shared by the river, you know, on my property.
Yeah.
But so the way that I've included more of the meditative aspect and the singing and more of the ceremonial aspect to the steaming is because once I started doing it myself, I was like, oh, this isn't just physical. I mean, sure, there's a physical component in the steam. There are volatile compounds that contain medicinal properties that are absorbed by the body in that way. But it goes a lot deeper than that, where connection to our womb takes us to a much deeper level of healing, one that's energetic, that is spiritual, that often can bring up what has been repressed in us that we store, you know, our emotions, grief, fear that we may store in that womb space, and just opening up to the steam, opening up our voices, which our throat is very much connected to the yoni, to the vaginal canal. And so connecting these two together and opening that line of connection really is transformative on many levels. So I like to make it a 3-hour experience where we can really go deep on those levels.
Going back to what you said about the Valley View Mall, there's something special about this area. And how did you end up here in the Blue Ridge Mountains? And you have a beautiful homestead that as soon as you step onto the property, you can feel its energy. How did you end up there? And what are you continuing to create there?
So before moving to Floyd, I was up in upstate New York, in Ithaca, New York, where I went to massage school. Funny enough, I was reading the Mother Earth News, and Floyd was one of the small towns that you may have never heard about, small progressive towns that you may not have heard. And I was with my partner at the time, and I was like, look, this seems like a cute small town where we can like raise the kids and all that. And we had a bus that we converted into an RV, and we traveled down in that bus to Floyd.
Did you have little kids
with
at
the
time?
kids, little kids, 2 kids.
Oh gosh! Wow.
So we traveled down here, and our idea was to connect with farms and local people and just settle into a smaller town, smaller area. So that's kind of how we landed here. And then I've been here ever since. And I guess expanded beyond Floyd. I started doing farmers markets in Floyd and serving French crepes because I grew up with crepes, but the like healthy versions. I was like, let's do some healthy versions of French crepes. So there was that element of food preparation even before I went to study nutrition. I was like, okay, let's do some healthy food. But then it continued to evolve before I opened the cafe, which was all organic foods and plant-based. So there is that continuity. As far as the homestead, just looking again for land, wanting to have land that could potentially accommodate a few different families that may live intentionally on a piece of land and cultivate gardens together. And so that was the original vision of wanting to have that space where we could hold classes, where we can have rituals, where we can commune together, where we can heal together, right? That is a little bit away from the city, from the power lines and all of
There's no internet access.
There's no signal. Yeah, there's water, there's, land. That's all you need, right? So that's the dream, and it's one that is still continuing to evolve and develop. I've been there for now 5 years.
Wow. I love that it just popped up in a magazine. I feel like sometimes we just need those little pieces of information in this world, and then you just took a leap, like, okay, this feels good, right?
Yeah.
In what other significant ways has that happened in your life where you've just had a feeling like, I need to do this, and you go and do it?
Wow. I'm quite a spontaneous person.
So lots of examples.
Some people say because I'm Sagittarius, I'm like this. I just need to go and do this. I mean, there are very many numerous ways. I don't know if I can pick out. I mean, it can be from I want to fly a plane, and I went and I started taking pilot lessons, and I just learned to fly a plane, right? Like just like these really random, I need to go do this. I think probably the most prominent example was opening the cafe because I had just completed my master's program that summer, and I was in communication with Katie Clifton, who's an acupuncturist in town. And we were discussing what we were going to do with this beautiful home that we had signed a lease on. And so we were like, okay, we're going to do an office here. She's like, I'm going to do my community acupuncture here. And what are we going to do with this big open space here? And I was like, I could just open a cafe. And I had never done this before. I didn't have the business experience to do it. I had just been doing food at farmers market. And I had to work with an architect and go through, plans in the city, approving all of that and the whole build out of the kitchen. I mean, it was a project that I did not know I was delving into, but it really was a beautiful and incredible experience. And I was like, I want to do this. Let's do it. And then converting a bus to move it into the food truck. I mean, that was another. I was like, I'm going to go buy this bus. And I'm just going to do it. So I'm very spontaneous by nature. And to me, I look at life as a series of experiences and a journey that is to be explored with wonder and curiosity and just like, where does this come from? Okay, well, let me see where that brings me. And it's not about reaching a goal necessarily for me or expecting like I'm going to get to this point or this level. Is very much about what am I learning through this journey? What am I experiencing? What connections am I making through just walking this path over here, And so I feel like my life has very much been about that.
I've learned that in walking a path like that, you can't have any fear. What
You have to
role,
trust.
yeah, what role does fear play in your life, if at all?
I feel like there's an awareness of
Right.
fear, and I think it mostly comes from perhaps expectations that I feel may be coming externally. And I guess to some extent, there are times where I've taken it in, be like, should I fear? Maybe I should fear. Maybe I should worry or be concerned. And there is also, depending on how much I sit in that, then the more we sit on something, the more we focus on it, the more it becomes real, the more it becomes our story. And so there's definitely the awareness. And I think the practice has been that regardless of knowing and being aware that it is there, just taking that step, right? And then there are times that I've taken a step and I look around and I'll take a next step and I'm like, okay, but I guess there's a certain amount of courage, right? Whenever we step out, especially if it's something creative that just comes from us, our own selves, our own desire. It's like, well, what if I put this out and it's not received, right? And then there's maybe that's okay. Maybe it's just the experience of putting it out because I love it, because I'm passionate about it, because I care about it. And I'm just going to put it out anyway. And even if it affects one person, that's important and that's significant, It's just thinking about it that way.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about what that okay feels like for you when you take a step and you look around, you're like, yeah, this is right. And what I'm thinking about too is that disconnect that we have from our bodies and how important it is to connect with our bodies. Because for me, at least, that okay or that's not okay is felt inside my vessel. And there was a long period of time where I was very disconnected from my body and was not feeling the okay, the not okay, and misinterpreting it because it was just kind of guided by external influences rather than internal. What has your journey been in connecting with your body and therefore allowing yourself to be confident in those moments where you're like, oh yeah, this is okay.
hmm I think that goes back to connecting with that stillness, right? That daily meditative state that we find ourselves in, that resonance. That resonance is me at my core, right? And when I step into something, is there alignment or is there discord that's felt within? And the discord may feel more like a static, right? It may feel more like a dissonance inside. And I do see everything in life as vibration. Everything has a vibratory frequency, a resonant frequency, right? So whenever we step into a space or we step into an action or we express a certain thought, it creates a vibratory frequency that is either going to align with our deepest truth or is going to be in static and misalignment with it. And that's how I feel it. Almost like this vibratory dissonance, and it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, this is not right. But there is this alignment where you can imagine like it just flows like the birds and that flow together in this beautiful way. That's kind of how it feels when stepping into something that is aligned with myself, with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. Thinking too about women's bodies in particular, and in particular our breasts, but also our wombs to some extent. There have been many, many times in my life where I feel like they're not mine, that they're there to please other people or to be an object of desire. And so, talk a little bit about how we as women can reclaim our bodies.
Yeah, that's a big question because there are so many ways that I feel women's bodies have been objectified, sexualized in a distorted way. And I'm not talking about in like the in a sacred relationship state where we can enjoy each other in beautiful ways, and sex is a beautiful thing, like
Mhm.
yes. However, in society I feel like there is that objectification specifically of women's bodies that causes us to feel like this is what these parts are designed to be. They're designed to get attention in certain ways. I feel like particularly the breasts have either been viewed in this way or medicalized. If we're mothers, they're used to nourish and to feed our babies, which can be a beautiful experience. Sometimes it can be more difficult and challenging for some women than others, but rarely are breasts looked at as just parts of our bodies that need to be nurtured and
Mhm.
connected with and loved, right? Rarely are they loved in this way and cared for in this way. So recently, I went to this breast massage training because I was really interested and connected to this part of my body for myself as a mother who's breastfed 2 children for a total of like 4 years,
Uh-huh.
right? And just the relationships with my own breast hasn't always been positive,
Mhm.
right? Just developing. I was very much of a tomboy as a kid, so developing breast, I was like, What are those? I want to be shirtless with my guy friends, right? So
Uh-huh.
there was that. I don't like this.
Uh,
And then just experiencing the changes of the breast as, we breastfeed and I'm just like, there is that, well, they don't look like they should look like to be liked and attractive and all of that, right? So I was like, okay, this is not a story that I want to feed into
mm,
at all,
mm,
right? So the breast massage is is a really beautiful practice that I discovered that can be done for ourselves in nurturing and healing this part of our bodies and this story and this rhetoric that we may tell ourselves, but also offering it to other women. And I feel like for women, what comes up is whenever our breasts may not meet this image that we think this is how they should look and what they should be, there's a shame. There is a
mm,
closing that happens. Like, well, mine are not like that. So, and that happens physically sometimes, energetically, and in the form of like stagnation. There isn't
mhm,
as much flow, as much openness, as much vitality. And think about the breast, they're right over our hearts, right? So there is that deep connection between the breast and the heart and our emotions that we then start guarding because they just aren't quite meeting up what the expectations are out there, right? So doing this work, I feel is beautiful on so many levels. Obviously it opens up the heart, right? Because we're working all in that area. Everything is energy. So we're moving lymph, we're increasing blood flow, which on the physical level, it can help with breastfeeding moms. It
mhm,
can help open milk ducts. It can help prevent mastitis, right? From clogged ducts. It can help relieve pain from cysts that form, right? It can just be a preventative remedy. I feel even for, breast cancer has just become so prevalent. And we're like, why are we seeing so many of us come with that, and what can we do to help nourish that area, right? Because cancer energetically grows in certain environments, right? But when a tissue is nourished and is healthy and is vibrant and is alive physically, energetically, our hearts are open, nourished, healed, right? that helps this whole area be more healthy, right? And so I feel like there are so many ways that it can be preventative medicine and for ourselves to reconnect with that part of our bodies in a wholesome and loving way. And I feel like reconnecting to a breast is really reconnecting to love itself, in our bodies. And breasts are such a source of giving abundance and nourishment. And I feel like all the ways that, if you look into women ancestry, that this has been um, stifled and suppressed and oppressed, I think that that reflects in the health of our breasts as well. So again, doing work on our breasts can also bring these things up, right? From the past, like, wow, this is opening up a whole other layer of what it is to be a woman in this world.
I think the through line of so much of what you've talked about is nourishment and our disconnect from nourishing ourselves and nourishing others. And I feel like our journey as women is somewhat mirrored by what's happening in the earth, Mother Earth, in the way that we're not nourishing ourselves, we're not nourishing others, and we're also not honoring and nourishing the earth. And we're suffering internally in the same ways that our earth is suffering. But on the flip side of it, I feel like this healing that we do internally is then reflected in the wider world as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love that.
Talk more about the connection to the earth and how important that is, not just for humanity, but for our own healing as well.
Yeah, so as part of my offerings, and that I consider healing offerings, is wildcrafting. And I think a lot of people may see like arts and crafts and crafting as something completely different and not necessarily associated with healing. But to me, holding and connecting with natural materials and connecting with the earth, the seasons, because certain materials can only be acquired in certain seasons, really bring a remembrance of what it is to live on the earth, to have a connection and a sense of reciprocity, right? Of taking with permission, creating and giving back, right? It's like this cycle and going back to this circle that is very much of what our nature is as women. And so in women's work, connecting to our greater mother is so key and fundamental to remembering who we are and the attributes that live within us. And so I will spend a lot of time observing the patterns of nature and learning from her in ways that I can then apply to my life. The resiliency, giving, the abundance, the power, the rate. I mean, when we look at the ways that the cycles they come, there's a dormant period, there's an active period. Those are things that we are to embody as well, right? So when we look at nature and when we look at the earth and all of her cycles, we really learn in a deeper way how to take care of ourselves because it mirrors that, like you said, directly, right? And so that's definitely been a big part of my personal journey, but also what I love to share in my retreats and just on the land as well is bringing women back into that connection and into that remembrance that also brings a sense of freedom because women have historically experienced a significant amount of oppression and didn't always participate in these activities with freedom. So being in spaces where we can freely be together and share these crafts and these skills in open places is revolutionizing in a way when we're thinking about our history as women. And is so empowering. And I often visualize and see our ancestors smiling at us like, yes, as our grandmothers are like, yes, sing the songs. You can sing them loud right now. You don't have to, be quiet about them. Like, so many of us and in various communities around the world have had to do. So really grateful to be able to do this and offer this freely in this space and time.
As we're heading into the winter season,
Mm.
how are you nourishing yourself?
Yeah, so being of like, Moroccan and Jamaican ancestry, the cold is
I have different ancestry, and still the cold is not my thing.
so I mean, I absolutely love the changing of season. I do see winter as a time of introspection, as a time for me to reflect, to nourish. So lots of broths, lots of soups when it comes to nourishment, lots of warming foods. I don't see that as a time to do like some juice fast, right? Really tuning into what's available here in the season, right? What is nourishing to my body and very much coming inward. I'm doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of reflecting, doing a lot of preparation and planning for the spring is how I see this time of the year. When it comes to being outside and connecting with the elements, I also like to still go outside and experience the cold and experience a little bit of the discomfort because I feel like oftentimes we like to be in our little micromanaged ecosystems,
Yeah.
right? Where we're like from the car to the office to to the house, and it's all the perfect temperature all the time. And I think that really eats at our resiliency and our strength as human, right?
Mhm.
Experiencing the different cycles and immersing ourselves in them, even if it's a little bit, even if it's stepping outside barefoot and okay, my feet are a little cold and it's uncomfortable, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, I'm done. Right? Like even if that's that little bit. So like this morning I walked myself to the river. I got in, but it was a very quick plunge. I didn't sit and swim in it
Yeah.
it was just I'm going in, I'm taking a few breaths. Thank you, water, for all that you offer. And I step outside, and that was, that was that. Otherwise, I like to stay warm as much as I can, sitting by the fire, right? And meditating, breathing, drinking some tea,
Mm.
doing these nurturing activities.
So, as we're talking about nourishing ourselves, I think in this busy masculine world that we find ourselves in, so many of us don't nourish our bodies properly with food. You talked about soups and things like that, and listening to the changing of the seasons and what's available to us. And so many of us, myself included, I'm just so busy. I'll like, okay, I grab a banana and throw some peanut butter on it, and then that's breakfast, right? How do you help people be better connected to their bodies and to the earth and nourish ourselves in a more holistic way?
So through my practice, my nutrition coaching practice is one way that I invite individuals to reconnect to nutrition, and very big part of really anything that I offer, whether it is the nutrition coaching, whether it is the massage, whether it's a retreat, or whether it's the crafting. That earth connection is very much at the core of it all, is those ancestral ways and how do we remember who we are as humans living on this planet, because I think it is the forgetting that has led us to really to disconnect and to therefore engage in actions that are destructive to our planet and to each other, right?
Mm.
But that remembering and that self-empowerment is really what helps us be connected and even kinder people, I believe, to
Yeah.
a big extent. So, as far as the nutritional piece, I encourage connecting with the seasons. I encourage looking at what's available, going to the farmers markets and seeing what our farmers bringing to the table and really bringing those pieces home with us. And taking the time and being more intentional to choose and select foods that are most nourishing and asking ourselves the question is like, how is this making me feel? What is it that I'm bringing into my body? And what information is that? Because food is information, right? So whatever we're putting into our body tells our body how to organize itself, whether it's towards health and vitality or towards a diseased state, right?
Mhm.
So any food item that you put in, there is that piece of coded information that you're giving yourself. So it's really a question that I encourage everyone to ask themselves throughout the seasons. How does it make me feel? Just little micro reflections are a really good way to connect our foods to our state of being and our wellness.
And taking time is so important to that. One thing that I've been trying to call in and to practice myself is, instead of grabbing that banana in the kitchen, creating more of a ritual and a slowness around eating. Because
Mm.
eating just becomes something that we do because you feel a little rumble and you throw something in. But there's a ritual to it that I think we've become disconnected to as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, and I think it's because there's just so much like food is available, the way the stores are laid out, year round you have the same foods. Fast foods are just easy to grab and we we aren't connected to also the process, right? Of where the food comes from, when it comes from, harvesting it, processing it, right? So again, because nutrition historically has been still connecting to our relationship with the earth, that remembering our relationship with the earth helps us reconnect to also our food practices, right? Like, so it is all connected and really can't be seen in isolation. And so I really like to look at it in a really all encompassing way. But again, with that earth connection is, I feel like that drum in the center of it all that pulls us back to that remembering and that state of balance that I feel many of us have forgotten.
So, Maya, what's next for you? What are you gestating during this cold season?
Things have mellowed out compared to spring and summer, which were definitely very much active with hosting a couple of women's retreats and having lots of events and classes. But there is one more event coming up here December 13th at 1 p.m. and I call it Open Heart Commons. And it is a self-breast massage and storytelling, creating with Lee Hunsaker on that one. She's the organizer of Hoot and Holler storytelling.
Okay.
So she will be joining me in creating a space where we can share our boob stories. All boob stories are welcome. And then I will guide participants in a practice of connecting with their breasts. And that can be in a very gentle way, where maybe you're just placing your hands on your breasts. And I I will be walking you through a meditation or a connection practice. But some of us who want to explore more, I'll be leading us through some self-breast massage practices. So just to begin that connective practices, working with women when doing breast massage, what I hear a lot is, wow, I just didn't ever even think about nourishing that part of my body. Or sometimes like, wow, there's pain. And I think it's connected to some like grief, like it's bringing up some emotions, right? And sometimes just moving that physically brings up and releases these emotions in a really beautiful, powerful way. So that self-breast massage can be a really beautiful introductory connection to the breast and to emotions and that may be stored in that area. So yeah,
That sounds amazing.
that's what I have coming up
Any ideas for next spring?
next spring. I am definitely brewing up some more classes, some more craft classes, more retreats and gatherings, more steaming by the river. I'm brewing it. I don't have anything set in stone yet. So right now it's just been writing out the ideas and creating them within me. So I'll be putting those out maybe in a month or so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Maya, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful.
This
I
has
really
been
appreciate
great.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor de fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de Rafael, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo.